Yeah.
And we're live. Here we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Forever a White Belt. I'm your host, Naughty Nate. And today I have a very special guest with me, the man, the legend, Anomaly. Welcome to the show, brother. How are you today?
Oh, I'm hanging in there, brother. Having some
Yeah.
issues, but I'm still doing good. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted you want to tell some of the competitors and some of the fans of the Scrapyard what's going on, man?
Well, I started having back issues last year. I just started getting worse and worse, and I thought my back might be going out again. And because I had an accident in '02, a parachute accident when I was in the military, and broke my back, broke my neck, got knocked out, and they
How far
fixed
did
it
you
in
fall from, Ron?
1,200 feet AGL above ground.
Woo! Wow. That is
And
quite the fall, sir.
yeah, I thought I was going to die, but I woke up and wondered where I was at.
And then
But
walked
3
away
years
from
later,
it, huh? With just a
yeah,
back injury. How about that?
yeah, I'm a knucklehead, man, certifiable. You know,
Certifiable.
yeah.
Well,
I didn't
that's
know
why
who
we
I was
love you.
battling to. Huh?
I said that's why we love you over at the scrapyard. You fit
Well, I
right
mean,
in.
everybody's knuckleheads over there, man. I mean, I'd rather be around the knuckleheads. They got better stories. More interesting, entertaining stories.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. Ron, you've been in martial arts now for decades, right? But there had to be a beginning. Why don't you give us a little brief history on your experience in martial arts, where you started, who got you into it, and yeah, what led you to the scrapyard?
Well, as far as the beginning, that was probably I was 10 or 11, I guess, and getting beat up all the time because I was a big kid, as far as big for my age. And everybody would tell me, if I'd get in an argument with somebody in my peer group, they'd say, well, I'll get my big brother to kick your ass. And sure enough, they'd get their big brother to kick my ass. And my stepdad said, boy, let me take you out the backyard after I'd come home beat up again, and he said, I'm going to take you back in the backyard and show you how to fight. And he showed me a few little things, as far as how to, to kick somebody and, and just to throw a punch. He said, don't be afraid to throw a punch and, just do it. I said, if they're going to hit you, they're going to hit you anyway. So I started
That's
fighting
some
with
really
that.
solid. I'm sorry to cut you off there, Ron. I want to interject though. That's some solid advice right there, from an experienced individual telling a younger child, like, "Hey, you're gonna get hit in this. There's no delusion about it." I think a lot of, a lot of arts or a lot of arts trying to sell you some delusions out there may think like, "Oh yeah, I can show you how never to get touched," but the reality is you're gonna get hit in conflict, guys, especially when it comes hand to hand.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So he told me to go to the library and see if there's any books on martial arts. And there was a Japanese jujitsu book. And my cousin and I used to go out in the backyard and practice some of this stuff. And then it got to where when guys would want to throw down with me, they would get hurt, or they'd wind up with bruises too. So that slowed down quite a bit. And and I've kind of stuck with it. And the only thing after that was, I was considered a tough guy, so they wanted to, everybody wants to beat the tough guy too sometimes. So
Ooh,
and,
heavy lays the crown, sir.
yeah, yeah, but I didn't really want to fight. I still don't like fighting. I don't want to fight. I'll compete all day long, but
Mhm.
I consider that's why it's hard for me to call it a fight at the scrapyard, because I tell them it's a competition,
Yeah,
because
it's a match. It's a match. I also deal with that kind of like fight match type things because for people that had to deal with real violence in the real world with a individual who's trying to come at you with intent to seriously injure you or end your unalive you, I guess is a new term. What a fight is like. What it is to fight for your life. It is a little it's quite different than being in a match. In a match you're dealing with somebody that's probably your size, your weight. They may have a height advantage or something like that, but it's controlled. Typically you're in a setting where it's not cement. If you fall down, you're not going to crack your head, plus there's a ref there to stop it.
Yeah.
So there's so many crucial differences between a match and a real life fight. I'm glad that you brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of safety nets out there for that.
Mhm.
And I've been accosted, verbally accosted at times, and a lot of times, believe it or not, but just smiling at the person kind of dismantles their whole game plan a lot of times, just because I kind of got the feeling they wonder what you're thinking about if you're
Mhm.
smiling.
Or just the fact that you're calm in an intense kind of moment right there, because they know what they're feeling. A lot of people, when they're untrained, the only time they get that kind of adrenaline, they don't know what to do with it. But if you're trained, you're pretty familiar with being under duress, and you kind of have an answer for it. So I think it does. It is a bit off-putting to individuals that they see somebody kind of smiling at them when they're pissed off. Like that really is like, well, what's up with this guy?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty funny, man.
Well, you've got an advantage because they're already getting to emotional part, and emotions is something you don't want to bring into a combat situation, combat conflict like that, because emotions will get you killed, man, or get you hurt. I
Yeah,
guess.
or killed. I mean, there's potentially, a mistake. I think the big thing with the emotions, and maybe you can add on to this, but it's due to the fact that you make mistakes when you're highly emotional. Like that rage can make you make a mistake, just because you get that tunnel vision. And mistakes are how fights are won. Like if you make a mistake and the guy capitalizes on it, that's usually what ends up happening to end the fight.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And when it's like in the army or in the military, they tell you to train how you fight and fight how you train, and that's kind of the way I take it in martial arts now. I've kind of incorporated everything I've learned over my life into martial arts. As far as and people don't understand what martial arts is. A lot of times they think, well, it's something about honor and this. No, it's about actually hurting somebody, hurting an enemy, or making sure that or controlling an enemy.
Mhm.
But and it's
Do you think that some of those words, I guess, have a place in martial arts, like honor, integrity, discipline, leadership?
towards your peers, not
That's
towards
towards your
your enemy.
peers. Yeah, yeah. You don't think that you can honor? I guess have. I guess respect would work. Would you have respect
Oh
for your
yeah,
enemy to some degree?
exactly. You better always have respect for your enemy. I always, when I'm coaching somebody or training somebody, I said, I don't care how confident you are or how much you think you know and how badly you think you're going to beat your opponent. You need to look across the cage of the ring or wherever it is, and like that guy is King Kong or that girl is King Kong, and
Mhm.
do not let them touch you, and do all the damage you can and get out. It's just like well, like in the military, time on target. Like get on target. Do your business and get out of there before reinforcements come in.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
it's in and out. You do your
Yeah.
damage and get out.
I mean, that's great advice. It seems like you draw a lot of these life lessons from martial arts to translate over to so many other aspects. I would say the military is one of them. That's what martial arts is. It's what is it? Hand to hand combat, originally meant for war, for things like that. So, the fact
Well,
that you've been able, go ahead.
martial arts isn't just hand-to-hand combat, though. That's what
Mm,
people don't understand, that there's weapons involved. So
yes.
that's, one of my favorite martial arts, I guess, that I've never had to use, and hopefully I never will, is Ching Ching Pow.
Mm. Well, I'm unfamiliar with that. What is that?
Ching Ching Pow.
Mhm.
That's Ching Ching Pow.
Oh my gosh, Ron, of course. There we go.
Yeah,
I thought you were giving us some kind of ancient Chinese secret martial art or something. You're like, no, it's a good old American ching ching pow. I love
yeah,
That's pretty good, buddy. That's
yeah.
pretty good, man.
It's a
Here,
martial
here,
art as well.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Uh, here's a good question. what kept you so motivated to stay on the mats so many years when
Quick segue here. This month, my team, the Reptilian Top Team, is running a fundraiser with Little Caesars. As you can see, you can grab ship to home kits and bundles, pizzas, breadsticks, cookies, all delivered right to your door. Or if you'd rather pick up in store, use one of the meal deal codes for your favorite Little Caesars combo. Crazy Puffs, wings, pizza, whatever you're craving. Every order helps support our fight team. It covers travel costs for fights, gas, training expenses, and new equipment to keep us ready for competition. So, if you want to help us keep showing up, fighting hard, and representing the community, hit that link in the description and grab yourself some goodies while supporting the Reptilian Top Team.
stay on the mats so many years when a lot of people they fall off, and I'm sure you training at a martial arts gym, shout out to Hammerhead MMA.
Yeah.
I'm sure you see it all the time. Like, guys will come in, they'll train maybe a day or two, or they'll try it out, and then you never see them again. What do you think that's all about?
Well, uh, some guys that come in and they have this misconception that they're all that in a cup of coffee and that they're going to make it, and be the next big thing or whatever. And I don't know, it's kind of a delusional thought of how and then they get humbled. And then some of them quit at that point, and then others, they think, well, maybe I need to learn something here, and they go long enough probably to get their blue belt, and then they realize they're pretty good at blue belt.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah, that's all I need to know. So that's when it's like they turn into ghosts after that. You don't see them anymore. They get the color on their belt and they're gone. But
yeah, that's so funny. Blue Belt Mafia, shout out to them too.
well, the guys that are blue belt and continue on, that's great. But I guess everybody can't be if everybody was a black belt, then there'd be nothing special about it. Or if everybody was a purple, brown, black, what's so special about it? So it's kind of nice to continue on. Well, me, I don't like why I like F.A.W.B, forever a white belt. I've learned great techniques from other white belts, and I use stuff still today that I've learned from white belts. I've learned stuff from black belts, white belts, everything. I don't, if it works, use it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, it's funny because martial arts, it is an art too. So everybody has a different little perception or a different little flavor that they bring. I mean, I think that transcends through all martial arts. And a lot of techniques I feel like are valid techniques, but sometimes they're just misapplied. So maybe if somebody's showing you a particular technique, maybe you don't use that technique how they use it, but you find a way to use it in a different way, how you see fit. So it's still a valid technique. So yeah, you can learn something from everybody. Do you think there's I don't know, particular trait in a individual that I guess keeps him going instead of quitting, like a lot of individuals do after they, get that colored belt?
Um, to me, I think it's kind of an individual thing, yeah, but a lot of it has, as far as the guys that keep going and stuff, they just they found a good school and they just stick with it, and keep going. Somebody that's got the if somebody that's teaching you has the goods, then you want to learn from them. And as far as traits, I think it's a lot of it has to do with atmosphere. If you got a good atmosphere at your gym, and you're not got people trying to hurt other people, and they get rid of those guys or whatever. As far as because that's just not a good way to learn. You got somebody trying to hurt you, well, then they don't show up.
Right. Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head there on how important the people you train with are to your training. You need to be able to trust those individuals that you train with so that you don't get hurt. And I think it is really important for gyms out there to really emphasize on like that community aspect. I've been a part of some organizations where there it was very tribal. It was very like hierarchy. You see that a lot in some traditional type schools where everybody's like really bowing and sometimes your grandmaster's some 300-pound fat dude walking around with his fingers in his belt who probably can't he probably can't fight his way out of a paper bag, let's be honest. But because he's been doing this so-called art for 50 plus years, you now have to bow down to him. I always found that crazy to me.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's strange how that works. I tend to, if somebody's got the goods, I want to learn from, and my coach when I was learning boxing was, he was old. He was really too old to get in and spar and everything, but he had a lot of goods. He showed me a lot of stuff. And, it depends on, like I said, if they've got the goods, you want to learn from them. It's just like, if somebody knows something that's got value, then you want to try to glean that from them. It's like I said, I've learned from white belts. I've learned from anybody, and it's always something new, there's always something you can learn if you're open to it,
Yeah.
And a lot of guys with higher ranks, they don't want to listen or not even just higher ranks, but just when somebody's talented or gifted with the strength or the whatever, and they don't want to listen to you, well then, that's on them. They'll never progress unless they humble themselves and start trying to figure out, that there's levels to this game, and you just got to learn more levels.
Yeah. I think it's funny too how ego and talent kind of go hand in hand sometimes. You got to really have that fine balance and get rid of some of that ego. Let's talk a little bit about the Scrapyard. What first drew you to the event? You've been around for 5 years now, by the way. This is the OG of the Scrapyard, somebody that's seen the progression from, a dirt ring to the cage it is now, to the event it is now. But before we get to that, what brought you to the Scrapyard?
Well, I've been doing jiu-jitsu tournaments, and doing pretty good, winning the jiu-jitsu tournaments, and it's just a nice feeling to go in and take on some medals, and then they started. Then during COVID, it dried up. There was nothing, there weren't no tournaments going on or anything. So
I remember those days. Oof.
And I'd always thought about going out to Virginia, and competing out there, because I thought, man, that'd be fun, and go do that and do an MMA match, just because I'd never done an MMA match. I've done boxing, kickboxing, and other stuff, but try my jiu-jitsu out in a mixed martial arts competition. So anyway, Sunshine, the lady that ran the OG branch out there, said, well, there's a branch, at the time it was a branch, in Gig Harbor, and ran by Steve. So she put me in touch there, and I went out I contacted Steve and then went out there. And that's how I got started there. And then he needed help putting the cage up. So I went out there and helped that. And the first day I went out to help with the cage, they were getting a truck to drag those heavy AstroTurf around, and had chains wrapped around it and straps just to tug it around. But they're heavy. But anyway, they lifted one end of it, and Steve wanted me to pass this. I think it was a strap, but it had a big, heavy hook on the end of it, and I threw it under the mat and hit him in the knee with it. So I figured, well, this is my last day here.
Took out Steve,
yeah. He had this look on his face like, if words would have been there, it would have been expletive this and expletive that, But, yeah, he was.
It's nice how he's really forgiving, for sure.
Yeah. Steve's a great guy, man.
He is.
But, yeah, and anyway, I just went out there and I wanted to do a match, MMA, and I was supposed to go against a guy that's no longer with us. rest in peace, Jay. But
Mhm.
and then they got me somebody else. I'd have taken anybody. I didn't care who it was.
You got a heart of a warrior there, Ron. I mean, you're in your 60s. You're 60 when you started, and
Yeah,
you're taking on opponents in their 20s. I mean,
yeah.
that's a pretty big age disparity. Did you feel like the experience gave you the advantage, or did you feel like their youth gave them the advantage?
Well, believe it or not, I've been pretty healthy most of my life and
Oh, I
stayed in
believe
pretty good shape. And I wish I had I think at around 32, 33, I was in a peak condition, and then it just slowly but surely, little injuries here and there kind of depleted that. But I did my best to keep in shape. Oh, and by the way, yeah, martial arts saved my life.
Yeah.
I absolutely saved my life, because let's see, about 7 years ago or 8 years ago when I first started out at Hammerhead,
Hmm.
there was I was over 240. I was not feeling good. And, I didn't care if I woke up the next day or not. And then my wife said, "Hey, why don't you get back into martial arts? Why don't you do something?" And I've been teaching boxing, in the army, every duty station I've been in, and teaching hand-to-hand combat and self-defense. So, and then I kind of missed that because the military, I was able to do that everywhere. And
Hmm.
so I said, "Oh, okay." So I got back in and I went over to Hammerhead, lost 25 pounds in a month, and started feeling good about myself, and started
What?
seeing the positive side again. So
Yes, sir. What a blessing too, man. I mean, it's hard to imagine you, Ron, being over 240 pounds because since I've met you, you've always been in shape. But I've also experienced, some of that darkness in my life too, where you go through these depressing stages. Life tends to beat us down quite a bit. And I always found martial arts to be kind of a savior for me as well. It's always been kind of the hub where everything tends to make sense. When I'm in there, like they have those things like the camaraderie
yeah,
that you find at a good martial arts gym, and through that you find purpose again, like you're saying, in teaching. And I found the same thing, being able to pass what I've learned and what I've been through in life. Kind of been able to share that with some of the younger guys and help try to guide them so that hopefully they don't make the same mistakes I did. They go make some different ones. And
yeah,
hopefully it's a positive thing for them because it is a positive thing for me. So I'm glad that you can also share that testament as to, like, we've been there. We've been in that darkness, guys, and there's a light, and there's a light sometimes just down the street at the gym when you can
yeah,
be around like-minded individuals that share a passion for what you share a passion for. I mean, that's how I met you, was through the Scrapyard. And I went there strictly because I share a passion for martial arts. I had a misconception of the event prior to going there. I thought it was going to be like any other backyard brawl event that I've participated in. I thought there's going to be little gangsters there, maybe doing some betting or whatever. That's why I showed up by myself, because I didn't want to bring anybody with me in case it got really weird.
yeah,
But when I got there, you were one of the first people that welcomed me into the community. And you've always been such a role model over at the Scrapyard for a lot of these young competitors, and I find it amazing, man. I think it's great that you can show up to these things and pass your knowledge on. And, sometimes these kids listen, sometimes they don't. But the fact is that you're there and you're trying to do something positive. And I think the ones that, have their eyes open and see that, and I think it's really great for them because they may not get that anywhere else. So the fact that they can come to the Scrapyard and they get a little bit of it, I think it's a wonderful thing.
Well, thanks, brother. That's some glowing comments. I don't know if I actually live up to that or not, but
You do, buddy. You
yeah,
do for sure, Ron.
but
We appreciate all the refing you do over at the Scrapyard. I mean, we talked a little bit about your competing, but I've known you more as a ref. more than anything. And I've always thought that you've done your best to, keep the competitors safe, and you've been fair. And for these type of organization, that's rare. You don't get that. So let's talk a little bit about how did you kind of fall into the reffing?
Well, I kept seeing guys getting hurt, and I'm thinking, well, things should have been addressed a little earlier, on certain things. So in different aspects of the game. So yeah, if I see somebody getting in trouble, I'll even interject. I'll tell them, I need to see something. I need to see something. Defend yourself. And if they can't defend themselves, even if they don't tap out or whatever, I'm just going to stop it because it's not worth somebody getting hurt.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure things are fair. Fair. You said it. You hit it right on the head. Fair and safe. And
Fair and safe. Yeah, that's the job of any referee, right? It's trying to
yeah,
be
keep it
fair
fair
and
and keep it safe.
safe as possible. Is there any match or that sticks out to you particularly that you've been involved in as a ref? That that you were that maybe let's break it down in two ways. Let's talk about the match that you're most excited about, and was there ever a match that maybe you thought maybe you made a wrong call, or you wish you would have stepped in sooner or something like that?
Well, fortunately, I don't think there's been many. I wish I'd have stepped in sooner. There was one where the guy's mouthpiece came out, and the other guy took him down, and when his back hit he did slammed his back on the turf there, and he was pretty much out. And then he started to throw a punch, and he got the punch in, but I was already on the move because I was waiting for any kind of a break in the action, but I wasn't anticipating him getting taken down. And I just wish I could have been faster at grabbing the other guy and pulling him off when I seen the guy's lights go out. But,
Yeah, things are
yeah,
happening quick in there, and
oh, yeah.
and like you said, I don't think people really realize that when you're watching it again from an outside perspective. But when you're reffing, it's almost like you're in the match itself. You're making movements, you're watching two competitors, you're having to keep eyes on both of them, and
Yeah.
you're trying to read their fatigue, their emotion. You're trying to read if they got dazed. There's so many things to look for, and things are happening at a split second. Some of these, like, think of it like one of these slams. Somebody gets slammed, and you have that moment where it's like, is he okay? Is he going to recover? And then all of a sudden he's knocked out on the slam, and the other
Yeah.
guy's on top of him dropping one or two hits, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. That's
But
what I'm saying, and that's why I try to get them off of them as quick as possible, and I try to stop it, and I just think, I think Dad, man upstairs, that I'm still healthy enough to grab some of these guys and pull them away if I have to, because
yeah.
it's all, I just want to protect them, so they'll want to come back and have fun, and have a great time like I've been having, but if you're just getting beat up and nobody's there to stop it, it's what's the point? Might as well be in a real fight,
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and there was something I was going to touch on, the riffing, oh yeah, it's like when somebody's getting blistered pretty bad, but not bad enough to call the match or give them a standing 8 count or whatever. That's the person I'm generally watching is the guy that's losing, because in most cases, that's the guy that's going to cheat. He might grab the cage, or he might do something he's not supposed to, and
desperation, right? That's
yeah.
that's
I remember
it.
what I was going to say. Is talking about riffing being a tough job. Well, I feel like my tongue's bleeding most of the time when I'm riffing because I'm biting it so much. I see so many things that some of the guys can do, and I want to tell them what to do, but I can't. I got to be impartial and can't help either one. So
Oh
it,
yeah.
it doesn't matter who it is. It's the guy on bottom. Usually, I'm thinking, man, if you just did this, or a guy on top trying to finish, and I'm thinking, man, if you could just do this, it'd be over and finished.
Yeah, and usually, like you said, it's like a a little adjustment. It's just like a little tiny adjustment. You might want to drop a little gem in on them, but it is
Yeah,
super difficult. I mean, it's not something you do as a ref, but
no,
as a martial artist, when you're there that close to it, and plus as a coach too, where you coach people,
exactly.
it's
Mhm.
extremely hard. I catch myself doing the same thing because I go from cornering to reffing sometimes, and I'm
Yeah,
still in that mindset where I'm trying to corner. And if I got, at the scrapyard, we have independent fighters there, so there's no bias either way. Again, I'm just a fan of martial arts. I'm an enthusiast. I'm a coach, and when we see something that may help the individual, it's hard not to step in. That's a valid point you bring up there, Ron, and that's
yeah,
something that other people I don't think would really understand unless they're in the particular position that you're in, being a ref, being a cornerman, and trying not to be biased at the same time.
yeah. Well, I mean, it is. It's difficult, because I see a guy that's maybe a guy's trying to finish a triangle, but he doesn't. He squeezes instead of doing technique. He just tries to squeeze his legs, and the
Mm-hmm.
guy's just toughing it out, When all I do is try to turn my knees in towards each other and get my
And
tap
squeeze
pretty
together.
quick, and you just see things or somebody trying to defend against a triangle or whatever, and they don't know what to do and they just tap. And I'm thinking to myself, so a lot of times I catch myself talking to the guy on the way out and I said, well, you know what you could have done, because it's hard
Yeah,
to hold it in.
that's
It's
a good
just
time to get
difficult.
them though. That or after the event. And we've been able to make a lot of good relationships because of that fact. I think that that's also another little gem and blessing that the scrapyard provides for a lot of these independent fighters is that when you go there, you meet like-minded individuals that might be in positions where they can help coach you. And I know you've been credited with helping out a few scrapyard competitors. Lights Out being one in particular who's always giving you praises and always mentioning that you help him out in his boxing and he's training with you. What's that been like?
All right. I just help him out at the scrapyard. He's never been here, I don't think, to my place. King Kai's been here a few times, and a few other guys. Actually, a lot of people have been here. The house working on their boxing and working on different things, how to set up things, because I believe everything's in the setup. From
Oh,
because I
yeah.
was I was all about the setup and not taking punishment in boxing and setting up my punishment, for boxing. And then I kind of took that over into jujitsu when every time I'd get caught in a submission or something, I'd Google it or YouTube it and try to figure out what defenses there were. And I'd try them out. People would come over and we'd train on them, see which defense really worked. And that's, I've tried to use that, the same mindset I had for boxing as I did in jujitsu.
Mhm. How much more convenient is it that you can just do a quick search on YouTube now and find, numerous different escapes or submissions to one particular position even. You can break it down that far compared to, 20, 30 years ago, you had to search through books or find somebody in town that happened to do some jujitsu. And usually that individual was probably like a low color belt if you can really find them.
Yeah, it was a lot difficult. Even not even that long ago, it was, YouTube did when YouTube first came out, it was a lot about computer electronics, and then it went to different things, and morphed off. And but now, you've got everything on there. Whatever you want to learn about, you can learn about it. And but like you said, you can find all these techniques on YouTube, but the thing that a lot of people seem to forget about is the fundamentals, because
Mm,
if you don't have a good fundamental base, none of that stuff's going to help you at all.
yep.
You have to have the base, just a good, strong base for
Mhm,
how things are going to work, And
mhm.
like they say, well, I've seen it done this way and it doesn't work for me. Well, probably not doing it right, because
Right.
one of my
Little
big fundamental things is to, in grappling anyway, is have no real estate between you and your opponent. make sure that you're tight in on them, and because if you give anybody any kind of space to move or breathe or anything, they're going to exploit that work and escape, and
Yeah.
it's been a strong fundamental for me.
It's a great rule. I always tell my guys position over submission, right? And you want to be able to maintain your position above all else, because even if you can't gain the submission from that position, you always have the ability to strike because you're in the dominant position, or you
Yeah.
have the ability to break away if need be to address another attacker. So you really want to maintain the position, and I emphasize top position, of course, just for
Me
those
too.
reasons. And that may be from the Japanese style of jiu-jitsu, where they did a lot of emphasis on the top game. That's kind of my base with jiu-jitsu prior to me going to BJJ, was that Japanese style where you wanted to be on top. A lot of that came from judo, slamming the guy, knee right in him, go for that arm lock or key lock, or strike him, and then address the next attacker. It wasn't like a fight from my back type of thing.
Yeah. Well, the thing of it is, in a competition, I am not going to give up top position unless I make a mistake and lose it, but when I'm in the gym, I always start from bottom position and work my way to the top. It seems like, I'm doing that, but top position is paramount, because if you've ever been under somebody, fighting up, wrestling up is just a pain.
It's
And then,
so exhausting.
oh yeah, and then getting on top, but it's good for cardio.
Mm-hmm.
But getting on top and maintaining that top position, is pretty good. And I think that's why a lot of guys like rolling them at gym. Is I always start bottom and I'll get up. And then once I've gotten top position, I'll go back, and start from bottom again from some of the lower
Use that
belt.
old half guard, that old lazy jiu-jitsu half guard. That's what I jump into myself.
Well, yeah. Oh, there's
Lay on my
there's some
side.
guys yeah, there's a couple of guys there that I do not get on bottom if I can. And one of them's Javi. Hey, Javi, if you're watching, and then another one is Ethan. Is our 200 and
Yeah,
I
those
think
big boys, you can't. Yeah, you
yeah.
just can't risk it, man. Even if they don't necessarily have the technique, they just have the weight to keep you there and
Oh no,
fight.
Javi's he's a brown belt. He's
Oh
really good.
yeah, yeah,
And,
that's a beast.
Ethan's like a wrestler, and he
Oh
gets
man,
on top of you. It's difficult, So
yeah, that's awesome. Here's a question for you, Ron. A lot of people hesitate to test themselves because of age or circumstance. What would you say to someone who thinks that they're too old to step into training in martial arts, or maybe too old to compete?
don't do it then. Find something athletic to do. I would say find something that you like, something that you enjoy that's athletic. I don't care if it's walking or whatever, it's this is not for everybody in my age group, it's not for many people in my age group. But yeah, if you have a desire, like I've kind of foregone some of the boxing training I've been doing, but I had a guy I met over at LA Fitness, 87 years old, and he saw me working with some guys on boxing, and he wanted to know about it, and he said he didn't want to lose any neurons. And I said, no, you're not going to lose any neurons, because my whole thing is I do a lot of mitt work with guys, because and I give them the analogy is if you went to a racetrack and they had Formula One cars to rent, you think they're going to let you get out in that Formula One car and take it around the track without some training?
Probably
Nope.
not. Well,
So yeah, so I give them the mitt work and I show them how not to get hit and how to counter off their slips, and he's enjoying it. He's 87 years old, and but I got hopefully this surgery will come soon and I'll be able to get back in the saddle. I don't know, but
I
it's
believe you will, Ron. I believe you will. I mean, I try to stay positive with these sort of things, and you've been a fighter your whole life, man. This is just one more test. That's all
yeah,
it is, brother. And it's shitty when it's a significant injury, like something like your back, because it affects everything you do. Like even sleeping is difficult, which then affects you're not getting enough rest, so it's affecting you mentally, which then affects you emotionally. And it's easy to slip back into, that darkness, because it's like my outlet may be suffering now. But I think with martial arts, and because of, the stage you're at with it, you always have that teaching to fall back on, like you're saying. You always have the mitt work, and if at the very least, you always have the knowledge, and you can consistently keep on training in that aspect. You can, there's so many videos and there's so much history to learn with martial arts. I've been kind of going down that route myself, where I've been learning history of certain arts. I didn't know this about Muay Thai. Did you know Muay Thai originally was founded from 3 different styles of Muay Thai, then formed into one style, which is now the Muay Thai we know today? I had no clue that was the case before.
Well, in '99, when I went over there in Thailand, knocked a guy down, or actually knocked him out, with the Thai boxers at a Thai Special Forces camp, and he was tearing up my leg, so I choked in on him and caught him with a hook and knocked him out. And my buddy that spoke Thai had already left the gym, so I was there with just these Thai guys, and one guy spoke a little English, and they were just looking at me, cop, 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 pointing at me and saying stuff. And I was thinking, oh shit, my ass is in the wind now, And the guy comes up and says, "You know box?" And I go, "What?" He said, "You know box?" I go, "Boxing?" "Yeah, you know boxing?" I go, "Yeah." He says, "Okay, you show boxing, we show Muay Thai." And that's probably the worst handshake I'd ever had, because anytime I wasn't in a field or something or doing something, I was in the gym getting the crap kicked out of me. So
yeah,
I learned quite a bit.
I bet, especially from those guys with those dead legs, man. They kill them shins off, and they're like little baseball bats.
Yeah.
Oh man. So Ron, you're gonna be doing some departure from the scrapyard. This is gonna probably be your last year with us. You're gonna be moving down to Texas to be closest to your family. What's the next chapter of your life look like? Will martial arts play a role in it, or are you just gonna kind of, enjoy it from a distance and spend as much time with the grandkids as possible?
Oh no, I'm going to be doing this till I'm pushing up daisies, man. I'm not going to stop,
I
because
love it.
it's been part of my life, I've been offered matches against older guys out at the scrapyard, and kind of declined on, because I don't want to hurt them.
Yeah, right. They don't understand the ground game. Like,
maybe I would have got hurt. There's always that chance, but I feel like, man, I like this guy. I don't want to,
yeah.
But,
And brown belt is a pretty significant level when it comes to BJJ. And if you're not familiar, again, with any kind of ground game at all, there's such a disparity when somebody gets a hold of you and puts you on that ground. It's not like, striking, when you're going against a really high level striker, it's like, oh man, I can't hit this guy, or he lands so many clean combinations on me. When it's grappling though, and you're on the ground, you almost feel completely helpless. At least in striking, you can touch the individual. When it comes to jujitsu and the guy's mauling you, it feels like there's nothing you can do. So I think a lot of those guys are probably appreciative that you didn't, take them down and ended up choking them out or taking one of their limbs from them. It's hard. It gets harder to recover as you get older, guys.
well, I'll address that too. As long as you stay in shape, recovery still comes pretty quick. As far as, because a lot of guys, my age or even younger than me, let themselves go.
That's so true. Yeah.
The desires to, that's one of the things I always ask Dad for. It's, well, there's a verse in there that says, ask for the desires of your heart. In the Bible, it says that pray for the desires of your heart. And I used to think that's, well, geez, I wish I had a 30-foot boat and a big truck to pull it. I said, no, that's not what it means. Pray for the desire, that you still have desire. You still want, to, and I got the desires. I want to stay in shape. I want to, I want to compete. I want to do, stuff that, fun stuff. And the fun stuff is for me anyway, is a lot of it's physical,
Mm-hmm.
go out, ride my dual sport or go skiing with my wife or, you know, and we started to go scuba diving, but she can't dive, but she can't go down without her ears bothering her. So that kind of went
Mm-hmm.
by the wayside. And I was afraid of great white sharks. So I thought, no,
I was gonna say you're pretty
yeah.
big. You're pretty brave to be getting in that ocean, man. I'm scared of big old sharks like that. I've seen Jaws one time. I think it was like, nope, no ocean for me.
Yeah, my wife's a really good swimmer, so I figured she wanted me to go to be the second place, and that's all you have to be with a shark there,
Yeah, that's it right there, right?
outswim your whoever you're swimming.
Yeah, that's that old saying. I don't have to beat the predator. I just got to beat you.
Yeah.
Here's another one. Looking back at your martial arts journey, if you could go back and give your younger self some advice, what would you say? And I'm gonna add a little bit more onto that, Ron, because we're getting a little late into this.
Okay.
I wanna. What else would you tell maybe a young competitor at the scrapyard? What advice would you give them as well?
Okay. If I was to tell my younger self anything, because I've always loved the learning aspect of it, but if I was to tell my younger self anything, I would say be patient. Be a little more patient, and because I don't know. It seems like I've always humbled myself because it seems to learn more when you accept that somebody is better than you and you learn from them. But that'd be one piece of advice I'd give a lot of young guys is be humble. Learn from anybody you can. If it doesn't work for you, fine. But never just think that you're so good that you can't learn something. And
Mm,
that's and if I was to tell my younger self something, patience. Because I
patient.
wanted, well, there's a lot of reasons, but I wanted to be known. I wanted to, I tried to be a lead guitarist for a good band, and I was pretty good at that. And I was pretty good at martial arts, but I wanted to get known, but so I could find my birth family. And I found them now. I found my mom at 29. I found my dad's family about 5 years ago.
Oh
But
wow.
yeah, that's pretty good. But
Yeah, congratulations on that, brother. I mean, that's super important to be able to reconnect with your roots. And I'm glad you're able to do that before, anything happened, man. You're able to at least make those connections, and that's wonderful.
yeah,
Jeez. Whoa, what a life, Ron. What a what a life you lived, man. And like I said before, man, the fact that you're there at the scrapyard with all your experience, both in martial arts and in life, it's such a benefit to all the competitors that you come across, man. I mean, you really are a guiding light for a lot of these individuals, brother. So we appreciate you there. I'm gonna be letting you go, but before I let you go, is there when I want to know when people hear the name Anomaly from the scrapyard, what is it you want them to think?
they hear the word anomaly. Don't give up. Just keep trying, keep learning, keep doing stuff. Just if you think you're too old at 40, you're just giving up. If you think you're too old at 50, you're just giving up. Just they hear anomaly. I hope I inspire somebody to do a little more. And just and don't give up on yourself. Never give up on yourself.
Hell yeah.
Be
Well,
better
Ron,
the next
you,
day.
I love it, man. And so you do inspire us. You inspire me. So if I'll tell you that right now, you're definitely an inspiration to me. I think that the fact that you're willing to even get out there and take a match on at 60 is an inspiration in itself. I hope that I'm able to do the same thing one day. And I hope that I can also, inspire the younger generation to also want to do that when they hit 60. So I wish you the best in the up and coming surgery, and I hope for a speedy recovery. I know this may be your last month at the scrapyard, so I'm looking forward to seeing you there. And yeah, man, we'll catch up a bit more then. Thank you for taking the time and doing a nice little interview with me. If you'd like, throw out any social media or anything that you'd want, any shout outs or anything that you want people to know about. Now's the time to do it, sir.
Hammerhead Mixed Martial Arts, Marcelo Alonso affiliates for Jiu-Jitsu. Just you know,
Check
and
them
you can
out.
go, yeah, check them out. Yeah.
All right, man. All right, brother. Well, I'm going to let you go, Ron. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon, okay?
Okay, have a good one, brother.
You too, bro. Take care.